A pretty common question I get is what's the difference between the Garmin Venu and the Venu SQ? There's the obvious stuff like how one's round and one's square, along with the fact that the Venu uses an AMOLED display and the SQ uses an LCD. But there's a little bit more to it than that, so in today's video, I'll be going over what these two share in common as well as the differences just so you can get a better idea of which device is going to be right for you. These new displays are going to be more in line with other smartwatches in the market today, like an Apple Watch or a Samsung, but the great thing is that Garmin's been able to retain some pretty decent battery life out of both of these, so you'll not only get a really capable fitness device, but you'll also have a nice, pretty display. So it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. I already have in-depth reviews of both of these devices in terms of how they perform in a sports and fitness capacity, and I'll have those linked down in the description below. But this video is more going over all the features of these devices as well as some of the differences, so if this video does help you out at all, don't be shy about hitting that like button down below as it definitely helps the channel a lot and I appreciate it. Let's start out with price. So the Venu SQ comes in two different versions. There's going to be a version with music and a version without music. The version with music starts at $250 and the version without music starts at $200. The Venu, this ranges from like $300 to $350 depending on what sales are going on, and I do have some affiliate links down in the description below where you can check out the current pricing. And those links don't cost you anything additional, but they do help out the channel. For the construction, the Venu has a stainless steel bezel where the SQ has an aluminum bezel. Both look pretty good, but in my opinion, the Venu does look just slightly more premium, and that may have to do with that slightly knurled texture on the bezel on the Venu. For size, the SQ is just slightly narrower than the regular Venu due to its square shape, and the SQ also weighs just slightly less. Both use touchscreens along with two physical buttons to interact with the device. Both are going to be water resistant down to 50 meters. Both use industry standard 20mm watch straps, and both are protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 3. And other than the shape, another big hardware difference is the display, where the original Venu has a 1.2-inch AMOLED display and the SQ has a 1.3-inch LCD screen. But overall, the regular Venu does appear to have more screen real estate, and it does also have a higher resolution display, so it'll be a bit brighter and also have deeper blacks, but I find the LCD display on the SQ to be pretty good. It's not quite as good as the AMOLED, but it's still brighter than Garmin's other transflective displays. The nice thing about both the Venu and the Venu SQ is that both have an always-on display mode, but just note that this will have an impact on battery life, which I'll go over here in just a bit, but with both you can disable the always-on display and just rely on the raised awake gesture, like what you'd find on an Apple Watch SE, Series 4, or Series 3. Both have a fairly good amount of stock watch faces, but the watch faces on the regular Venu definitely show off that bright and crispy AMOLED display a bit more than the watch faces on the SQ. And one more thing you'll get with the regular Venu are live watch faces that have a little animation when they're activated with a gesture. Battery life on the SQ is going to be slightly better for day-to-day use, with the SQ being able to get about 5 to 6 days, and with the regular Venu getting about 4 to 5 days. And that's going to be with the always-on displays being disabled. And if you were to enable the always-on displays, just take that down by about a day or two, but still pretty decent battery life. In the GPS department for tracking outdoor activities, the regular Venu does have the upper hand here, where the regular Venu will be able to get up to 20 hours and the SQ gets up to 14 hours. And that's going to be without playing music. But if you are playing music while tracking outdoor activity, they're actually going to be very similar. The smartwatch features are going to be nearly identical between these two, where both have Garmin Pay, both can sync your weather and calendar information from your phone, both can also receive notifications from either an iPhone or an Android phone, and when you pair either of these with an Android phone, you can actually reply to text messages using predefined responses that you'll set up in Garmin Connect. And then with the Venu and the Venu SQ Music, you'll also be able to have offline music storage and playback using music streaming services like Spotify, Deezer, as well as Amazon Music. And then if you don't need that feature for some reason, you can actually save $50 with the non-music version of the Venu SQ. And then both also do have the latest generation Garmin Elevate heart rate sensor that also has an SpO2 sensor for measuring blood oxygen saturation levels. So the heart rate performance will be very similar between these two devices. Another hardware difference is that the original Venu has a gyroscope where the SQs do not. So the gyroscope is intended to be able to improve the rep counting ability with a strength training profile, as well as stroke detection while swimming. Realistically, the rep counting is kind of hit and miss with any Garmin device, no matter how expensive or how cheap it is, so I wouldn't necessarily gloss over that detail all that much. However, a bigger difference is that the original Venu has an altimeter where the SQs do not. But what difference does that actually make? Well, mainly two things. The SQ won't be able to track your floors climbed as a daily activity metric since that needs an altimeter, but the other is that the SQ won't be able to show your real-time elevation when you're tracking an outdoor activity like your total ascent and descent. However, once you actually save your outdoor activity with the SQ, it will actually show that elevation data, and that's going to be based off of GPS rather than an altimeter since the SQ lacks that. And then for external sensors, they're going to be identical, where you can pair them with heart rate sensors, speed and cadence sensors, Varia lights, Varia radars, a whole bunch of stuff. For safety and tracking, both of them have live tracking, where you'll be able to send a link to friends and loved ones so they can actually follow along during your outdoor activity. Both of them also do have instant detection for certain activities, and then both of them also do have get assistance, where you'll be able to send a link of your location to emergency contacts. For widgets, both of them have nearly the exact same set of widgets to choose from, and I've gone ahead and added all the available widgets on both of them just so you can see them all. So here's where you can see the daily activity tracking that each one can do, including the 24/7 heart rate tracking, body battery, stress tracking, calories burned, intensity minutes, women's health tracking. But the difference with the Venu, since it has an altimeter, is that it can also track the floors climbed. Oh, and then both of them do also have sleep tracking, which can utilize the SpO2 sensor for measuring blood oxygen saturation levels. The workout profiles are similar between these two, but there are a few differences that I want to point out. So I'll first just go ahead and scroll through this list, but I'll have a link in the description below where you can check out the entire list. The first difference is that the original Venu has a floor climb profile, where the SQ has a stair stepper profile. The floor climb profile, this will track your actual floors climbed if you're in a stairwell, just because you're actually changing altitude. But with the SQ, with the stair stepper profile, it won't be able to collect that information, since while you're on a stair mill or a stair stepper, you're actually in the same place the entire time and you're actually not changing altitude. The other big difference is going to be with the ski and snowboard profiles. With the original Venu, it uses the altimeter to determine when you're going down the slope and then when you're ascending on the chairlift, and it automatically is able to track your runs without you having to do anything. It's actually pretty darn neat, and I have a video where I demonstrated how this worked on the Fenix 5 Plus, and I'll have that linked down in the description below. And with the Venu SQ, although it does have those profiles, you'll actually have to manually trigger your runs using the lap key, but it still is able to track all your GPS data, including speed and distance. And then another big difference is that with the Venu, you'll be able to get the animated workouts, and with the SQ, you don't have the animations, but both of them are still able to download workouts to the device. And then finally, let's also go over the data pages and fields. So with both of them, you can have a maximum of 3 data pages, but an advantage with the Venu is that it can display up to 4 data fields per page, where the SQ can only display up to 3. But the other big difference that I was referring to earlier with the data fields is that with the original Venu, since it does have the altimeter, you'll be able to add elevation related data fields so you can see that data in real time. And again, even though the SQ doesn't track elevation data with an altimeter, you'll still be able to see this elevation data after you save your outdoor activity based off of GPS. So as you can tell, these watches share a lot in common, but it comes down to 3 main things: round versus square, AMOLED versus LCD, as well as the altimeter. However, that altimeter, it does actually translate into some more smaller differences that may not be so apparent on the surface. Anyhow, if this video helped you out at all, if you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button down below, and also subscribe to the channel for plenty more sports tech videos that are coming soon. In the meantime, have fun out there, and we will see you in the next video.